If there's one thing most Americans can agree on, it is that there is way too much money in American politics. Political contribution laws that allow for large donations to political candidates are way too permissive, and corporations and very, very wealthy people take advantage of those laws for their own benefit at the expense of the rest of us. So, you may have seen Justice Democrats and Bernie Sanders use this idea to attack AIPAC and Democratic Majority for Israel. The problem is that candidates of the progressive groups and Bernie Sanders have benefited very much from money in politics. They haven't necessarily benefited from getting money from big corporations, but there is a reason that more than 95% of Rashida Tlaib's contributions don't come from Michigan, and most of them come from way out of state. I think the biggest chunk is Silicon Valley in California. And so what you have in the Sanders group is you have a sort of an online mob of whatever it may be, 15,000 contributors, 20,000 contributors that dive into every progressive race in the country and give their $50, $100. And so, yes, it's not one big donor, but it's this group that it has been going from one district to the other where they don't belong, they don't know the interests of the district, they're out of state, and they contribute money there. They also have their own PACs. They have Sunrise, they have the Justice Democrats, and other groups, PACs, that are giving to progressive candidates. Now, to counter this extraordinary influence that Bernie's money brings to races, Democratic Majority for Israel, AIPAC, and other groups do counter that with large donations. But to say that somehow the Sanders group is not money in politics when they are 95% out of state and most often the same people chiming into every race is unfair. And so, yes, Democratic Majority for Israel, AIPAC do give large contributions, and we need to make sure that there is less money in politics. The person to turn to make sure we have less money in politics would be none other than Senator Bernard Sanders, who's been a senator for 30 years, had an opportunity to try pass legislation for that, and surprisingly has not passed that or many other pieces of legislation. And so now, once the trick has been exposed, the idea that the Sanders online mob goes from place to place, from district to district, and just gives extraordinary amounts of money by the force of their online cooperation. So now that's been exposed, and organizations like Democratic Majority for Israel do go in and donate largely to candidates that are not anti-Israel. Mr. Sanders is speaking against money in politics, which is obviously not in good faith. And so the idea also that Democratic Majority for Israel or other candidate or AIPAC would donate to what they call union busters is absolutely not true. Shontel Brown and other candidates that they have supported have been extremely supported and endorsed by local unions. And yes, I am a strong believer in unions. We need to make sure we give people good wages and good working conditions. So to get rid of money in politics, let's stand together for a legislation that will address everything, that will not allow tens of thousands of Bernie supporters, the same ones, to go from district to district and have their influence on the local politics. And let's make sure that our politics are fair and money-free, with the voice of the people being heard. Till then, I'd like to thank Democratic Majority for Israel and AIPAC for making sure that the voices of the mainstream, the majority of Democrats, because they do represent the majority, are heard, and that they do support candidates that are pro-Israel, not anti-Semitic, heaven forbid, and that really that the voice of the people is heard.